Salute, ATP. It's your boy Clay. More rain back at you guys with another one. As I always do, salute to all my subscribers. Appreciate you guys for supporting the channel. If this is your first time tapping into the content, I do invite you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit your bell icons as well, so you are getting alerts when all this content is dropping. So this past weekend had a pretty decent weekend of fights. I didn't get a real opportunity to break down a lot of fights. Maybe we'll save it for the other video, but this one in particular is going to be surrounded around the heavyweight division. Guys, ever since Turki Al-Sheikh has entered into the boxing space, we all know that he's really focused his energy in the beginning on the resurgence of the heavyweight division and has done a great job at this point. It does seem as if the heavyweight division is more of a European thing, but still, regardless, seemingly they used to say back in the day where the heavyweight division goes, so does boxing, and the heavyweight division seems to be in good hands. Now having getting closer and closer to a four kings, now that Tyson Fury has removed himself from the game, we have an undisputed champion. Well, we have a unified champion now and an IBF champion, but we had an undisputed champion in Alexander Usyk, but now a unified three-belt weight class unified champion, and we have a IBF heavyweight champion in Daniel Dubois. Daniel Dubois, a resurgence. You guys know the story. Last year had one of the best comeback years in all of boxing, with major fights that led him all the way into having an IBF championship, from fighting Jarrell Big Baby Miller to moving forward to Philip Ergovich to a grand closing with Anthony Joshua to walk away an IBF champion. And of course, we had Alexander Usyk, who fought Tyson Fury twice to solidify himself as the best heavyweight fighter in the world. Now, also, we had a fighter by the name of Joseph Parker, who also had a pretty damn good comeback year right next to Daniel Dubois, right? With fights with the likes of Deontay Wilder and Zhilei Zhang, and is lined up, in all honesty, to fight probably the winner of Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois, and arguably a lot of people felt like should have been in that conversation with fighting Alexander Usyk. But also in the background, who's been creeping and steadily working and steadily staying active, is a Ring Magazine Prospect of the Year fighter by the name of Moses Itauma. Moses Itauma, coming out of the UK, young fighter, 20 years old, sitting with a record right now of 12 wins, 10 of those 12 wins coming by knockout. And in many of argument would be argued to say is the up and coming dark horse of the heavyweight division. Now, guys, I take it a little bit lightly when I say that, because when I think of the dark horse or a boogeyman in the heavyweight division, I still highlight the likes of Ajit Kabayel or even a Martin Bakole, even though Martin Bakole has kind of been on a opposite direction trajectory as far as where he was going since he had his victory against Jared Anderson, in comparison to where he is now, running a draw fight against F.A. Jogba in his last fight, and the fight before that being stopped by Joseph Parker, right? That being said, keeping the energy focused here on Moses Itauma, who today the WBO rankings reflected that he was pushed up to the #1 spot. Now, guys, who's holding the interim WBO title right now? None other than Joseph Parker. Now, obviously, we know that Alexander Usyk is a unified champion and a true WBO champion in there. But now that Moses Itauma has been moved up that high in the rankings, right underneath Joseph Parker, there's really a real argument to say that Moses Itauma could any given Sunday now become a mandatory according to the WBO. Now, whether you think he's ready or he's not ready, I guess time will tell that story. But the young bull has been shaking up the industry, to say the least, ever since his entrance, and especially in the last year and the performances he's had this year. Moses Itauma coming off of a dominating performance against a Mike Bologun, an American heavyweight fighter that he was able to dispatch of inside of 2 rounds. The thing I think I like the most about Moses Itauma probably would be his poise, his temperament. Very calm, very humbled person, right? Not really into the pretty boy or the aesthetics of having a lot of money or a rock star energy, but more so a grounded focused, committed to the sport boxer who looks like he probably is living that lifestyle outside the ring as well as what's going to translate into what's going inside the ring. And he really completes the circle and kind of turns the heavyweight division where you can kind of see a four kings energy starting to brew up as Moses Atuma is looking like an unstoppable force of nature, knocking out somewhat of his last 7 to let's say 10 opponents. Well, no, let's say about 7 to 8, 6 to 8 opponents, has knocked him out, stopped them all in great fashion. We're talking about all inside of 2 rounds. Most of them first round knockouts or TKOs. I mean, I want to say the kid is amazing, but this is a grown man, right? And at this point, getting his ranking, being ranked at #1 in the WBO rankings, one might argue or should argue that this is not a prospect anymore, that this is a legitimate contender. His last 4 fights have been 10-round fights and all ended in first and second round knockouts. So where does Joseph Parker end up falling in place in this situation? Well, Joseph Parker is an interim WBO title holder. But right now, at this moment, when you look at it, Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois have a fight lined up to come up in July. After that fight is done, how long will the winner of that fight wait before they fight Joseph Parker? And what does Joseph Parker do in the meantime? Now, there was a while back where I would have made an argument that a good fight for Joseph Parker would have been the likes of a Derek Chisora, right? Just because Derek Chisora was actually in a mandatory position to fight against Daniel Dubois for his IBF title. In my mind, in the imagination that I have, in the world that I have, I said to myself, maybe that's what Derek Chisora should do. Maybe he should fight Joseph Parker. Both those guys can get ready, and either the winner of that fight would be in position to get an opportunity at becoming an undisputed champion. But now that Moses Atuma has been moved accordingly, there's an argument to say that, all right, well, I've heard rumors that Moses Atuma's next opponent, Frank Warren's looking for it to be either out of Eileen or the likes of a Jermaine Franklin. Now, these are great fights for a contender who just moved up from prospect to kind of get his feet in the water. Out of Eileen having opponents with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, common opponents, and Jermaine Franklin as well, having fights with the likes of Anthony Joshua. These are great opponents for Moses Atuma to continue to grow in the heavyweight division. I mean, obviously, there's no rush on Moses Atuma, being that he's 20 years old. Even though he's standing at 6'4" with an 80+ inch arm reach, it might look like a grown man, and probably is a grown man technically on paper, but in all reality, when it comes to boxing, he has a lot of baby, right, attributes about him to where there should be no rush in his development. But still, nonetheless, being ranked as high as he is in the WBO rankings, one would argue that he probably will get an opportunity to either operate or activate some sort of mandatory position to challenge the likes of an Alexander Usyk, or maybe even fight a Joseph Parker, or the winner at least between Alexander Usyk and Daniel Dubois. And I can't lie to you guys, the eye test tells me that he's going to be competitive in any fight he's in. Now, with only 12 fights, the experience is limited, and you have to be honest about that and be true to it to say that even though the eye test leads me to believe that his boxing pedigree is high enough to compete with any of the heavyweights in the division right now. I mean, Alexander Usyk, some might say, is a stretch, being that he has such a high IQ inside of that ring. And we're talking about Daniel Dubois, and definitely, in my personal opinion, Joseph Parker. I think we've got a fighter who can probably stop any of those guys, or at least beat them. But we'll watch it develop, and obviously we'll sit here and celebrate the best fights that could be made. You guys take an opportunity to go ahead in the comment section and let me know what you think about what you see in Moses Atuma. Is Moses Atuma checking those boxes? For me, I think he is right now. It is just an eye test. This next fights that they're trying to put together between either him and Out of Eileen and Jermaine Franklin, I think are perfect and great fights. But after those fights, at this point, Moses Atuma, ranked as high as he is in the WBO rankings, probably needs to make sure his fights, and Frank Warren's probably making sure his next couple of fights are going to be top 10 killers, right? And maybe even against Joseph Parker. Who knows, right? Maybe even get a fight with an Alexander Usyk if he can get through Joseph Parker. Who knows? Or Daniel Dubois. Who knows, right? Let me know what you think in the comment section, guys. Once again, thank you to my subscribers. If this is your first time tapping into content, take a moment, hit that subscribe button, hit your bell icons as well, so you are getting alerts when all this content is dropping. It's your boy Claymore Rain, It's that ATP Combat Media Show, guys. Salute you guys. Catch us live in the morning. I'll be on at 11 in the morning tomorrow being Wednesday. And also in the evenings, you can catch me on Blue Blood Sports, co-hosting with him. Until the next one, I'll catch you guys another time. At this point, I'm out.